friends, thanks a lot for spending time with me today. This video is going to be all about some new CoverGirl products, really focused on layers of eye products. I mean, we've got some shadow sticks that might be seen as like the base of your look or a look in themselves, all kinds of new eyeshadow palettes, and then perhaps what might be the icing on your look, these sort of glittery liquid eyeshadow topper type products. Again, those could stand alone as well, but there's just all these different forms of products and textures. And yeah, I received this in a PR package from CoverGirl recently, and it was funny because the only element that I had previously owned of this stuff was the Ascension palette. You may have remembered me talking about this. I think it was a haul video, and I was talking about the fact that when you go into a store, these are all sealed up. You can't even like open the top and then there's a clear covering or something. No, you just only get to see the back. And based on the back, that was the one I picked up. Now that I've seen all the stuff, I can tell you this is probably my least liked palette. Like, I've got some different feelings about the others, although as you'll hear me say, some overall feelings on the packaging remain the same. But I did a little Twitter poll recently, as I said in my last video, asking what you guys wanted to see, and it was like 1 or 2 percentage points off between the Aladdin stuff and then this stuff. So definitely didn't want to leave those of you who were really interested in the new stuff from CoverGirl hanging, so here we are. As you can probably tell, my eyes are bare right now. I just have some eye primer on there, and I've got the rest of my face makeup completely on, a little bit of tinted balm, but we're going to talk about everything and use some of these products in application so you can really see what I'm talking about. The first thing I think we'll focus on are these shadow sticks, and these are called the True Naked Queenship Cream Shadow Sticks, and it says they're available exclusively at Ulta May 15th, and I've got 2 little categories here. We've got 3 that are matte, and then these 5 are shimmers, ranging from a light champagne all the way to some very deep and dark shades. And let me tell you, when I was first just strictly swatching this stuff out, I did a nice little lineup on my hand of all these shadow sticks, and I thought they applied smoothly, like they glided on the skin just as easy as a Laura Mercier caviar stick or a Mally shadow stick. And I had a bunch of other stuff, some of the eyeshadows, some of the glitters on there as well. I'm like, I'm gonna leave some of this stuff for a while just to see, like, once I go to rub over it, how much is it gonna affect the product? Is it gonna smear away? Are just some of the glittery particles gonna fall away? Well, these stayed wholeheartedly. Like, even little bits of sparkle that were in the shimmery shades were clinging on there after a baby wipe, after I would say 5 or 6 hand washings later that day. It wasn't till I took an actual swim in the pool for like an hour and then I looked at it and I'm like, oh, they're starting to fade slightly. Like, it was just ridiculous how well those products were able to hang on. And even the sparkle that was infused, that was perhaps the most surprising. Sometimes the pigment, the real base color from shadow sticks or cream eyeshadows will have a way of really adhering to the skin, but how they can make the shimmer, the tiny microfine sparkle that's in some of these shades adhere as well is beyond me. Through all that, through hand washings, through soap, rubbing over it, pointedly trying to remove it from my hand. Like, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the staying power. These don't seem to have actual names on them. It's just the numbers on the bottom. And of these matte shades, we have like just a matte cream kind of bone color. We've got something that's just a little bit deeper and seems to have a bit more of a pinky beige tone going on. And then the deepest one, kind of a matte taupey color, like a very cool light to medium brown is the other. So what I'm gonna do here is show you just a little bit of a base with this matte 905, which is kind of a little bit of that pink tone beige. I feel like if I was looking for one of these shades to mimic my own skin tone and kind of act as a base for a look, this would be it. And so you're gonna have a little wiggle room as you put that on. See what a match that is? You could probably hardly see it differentiating itself from my skin tone. But you know, you can pop this on, and if you're looking to remove discoloration on the eyelids, like, you kind of draw it on there, and then you've got just a few seconds to play around, and then it's going to start to set and go to that long wearing place. But I just thought I would pop that on there to show you what a great skin tone match that happens to be for my light skin. If you're even lighter than me, you might look into 900 for that roll, and if you're deeper, you might check out the 910. Then getting into the shimmers, I really love this 920 because I could see a lot of people liking to have just this sort of shimmery champagne color to possibly encircle the inner corner, you know, add that that kind of glossy shine, but yet long wearing shine, because these are just so hardcore. And that's the thing that got me. Like, I was coming at it from all different angles, you know, wipes. I even got like a wet ones wipe, hand washing with just soap and water. I'm aware that probably an oil-based makeup remover would have broken it down, but just looking at the everyday stuff that product may come in contact with, I just thought, wow, this is really hanging on. And wearing it on my eyes, they hang on just as well. So you can see I kind of encircled the inner part of the eye there. I'll bring it up onto the lid so you can see the level of shimmer, for example, that this shade has. This is going to become a base for a full-on eyeshadow look, but I just really want to exhibit this stuff for you. So of the shimmers, it's like that's our light one. We've got two that are kind of mid-tone shimmers and then two deep shades. So we'll take one of these mid-tone shimmers. Let's take 930. 930 seems to be kind of like a cool brownish bronze. 935 is much more golden. So 930, taking this over the lid, a lot of taupe. Again, I just do a few little strokes and then dab over it with my finger. And another good strategy for shadows like this is taking a synthetic brush, like a Real Techniques brush or whatever you may have. I just think dense synthetic style brushes help products like this a little bit if you're not just wanting to work with fingers. And you can kind of drag that shade almost up toward the crease. And then your two color options for your deepest shades. One is 950, and this one's gonna be your black. It looks like the shimmer may have a bit of a bluish tone, but just very, very deep. And then we've got a nice shimmery plum here, and I'm gonna dab the plum in the outer corner of the eye. And this is my Real Techniques Instapop crease brush. And I'm just gonna use that real quickly here to help me move that product around somewhat. Ultimately, I think these darkest shades could be prettiest like as smudgy eyeliner. You know, you're getting that bigger, rounded off shadow stick type tip from these products. And ultimately, I think the least fussy way to apply a shadow stick, just grab one, maybe that mid-tone taupe or golden shade, just swipe it all over the lid, blend it out a little bit with your finger and be done with it. That's probably like the quickest, easiest way to go. But I just wanted to give you a little sense of what those do. And I do think the matte ones could make very nice neutralizing bases for an eyeshadow look. Mid-tones, nice freestanding options for all over the lid, and the deeper ones I think are great for smudgy liner. Now here's the palette situation. We have one smaller palette here that is the size we're all kind of accustomed to with the different little True Naked palettes. This is called the True Naked Queenship eyeshadow palette. Available now for pre-order at Amazon.com and nationwide July 2019. So this is a very shimmer heavy palette. In fact, we have one 100% matte shade with this soft brown. And to me, and we'll probably come back to this at the end, but I feel like I see elements from all of these other palettes kind of peeking through in here with the golds, kind of a berry color, a blue, cooler silvery shades, the gold. It just seems like a snippet of what's happening in everything else. And I do like what's in here, and I really appreciate the compact size. Like, I almost wish they could have stuck to something similar to this size for all of these palettes, and you'll see why once you look inside if you haven't seen these yet. I feel like the packaging is just way overboard. And this is just much more like makeup storage friendly and travel friendly. I think the metallics in here are pretty strong, and I feel like this burgundy shade, the color that was close to this in one of the other palettes, is actually much deeper, doesn't show as much red. This is a little bit brighter. This blue is nearly identical to something in one of these other palettes. You got a nice strong gold and copper, but like I said, keep in mind it's very shimmer heavy. Not that some of these shimmers can't do multiple functions on your eyes. They can be in your crease. They can work as eyeliner and do different things, but if you're all about having more pure matte in a palette, there's only one here. But I like the size, I like the kind of deepened jewel toned approach to what's going on here, and you really do have some splashes of warm and cool. Now let's chat about these larger palettes that you're probably seeing at Walmart. I think it says, yeah, exclusively at Walmart. And this is the Ascension one that I was talking about before, the white packaging. And what you're gonna run into as you see these in store, they're gonna be sealed completely, so you can't even so much as open the top and look at what's inside. So you're gonna have to judge them by what's on the back. Or try to look them up in a YouTube video would be the wise thing. This palette is kind of like a matte shimmer split, except there's one shimmer lurking right down here, but everything up top has some sheen. And my complaint with this palette, like, it's pretty to look at, but once I started actually using it on the eyes, there wasn't enough contrast. Everything in here is like light to medium, and this shade here, which looks, I think, a heck of a lot darker in the picture on the back, it really doesn't apply that dark on the eyes. And I feel like all of these pretty tones kind of just mush together, and the look is just not as beautiful as it could be. Now, thinking out of the box a little bit, could you pull some of these shades, that light lilac or that peach? Could you mix those shades with deeper colors you already have? Sure, that would be a way to kind of salvage the palette. But I always like to look at palettes as the standalone thing that they are, you know? And to me, I was really not that satisfied in the looks that I created. And also, talking about the packaging, why is there so much space here? Like, for these 2 rows of shadows, I'm picturing everything being more like condensed toward the top and toward the corner, and ultimately you would have something that's probably not too much bigger than this size palette, you know? Like, I respect having the 2 rows and whatnot, but this could all have been a lot more compact. So Ascension, again, was the least wowing to me. And then the next one that I didn't love so much is the one called Overthrown. So I was able to finally try all these once I got them in the PR package. And Overthrown takes on a much darker vibe, both with packaging and with the color scheme on the inside. You can see everything is really dark and smoky. And instantly when I opened it, I thought, ooh, oh my gosh, these look pretty. But when applied on my eyes, I realized, like, I'm not actually seeing much color from these shades at all. Like, this is a color here, that dark burgundy looking shade, where I'm like, there's another color in the other palette where that burgundy actually shines, and here it just looks kind of deep and brownish in application. This green, I applied that in an eye look. I don't think you'd hardly be able to tell that was green. The blue, kind of, that might be one color you can really see from this, and the copper. And yes, they do give you some options, you know, just for getting the crease sort of ready to go. I see that. This shade is pretty interesting, the one called Loveless right here. There's some sparkle in there, a nice amount of shine. It looks similar to Smoldering, but Smoldering is actually much darker in application. But all in all, it's a really deep, smoky palette, and I think the colors in it are a little misleading, with the exception of blue, if you really intend to put that on very full on, very packed on and intense on the eye. I think it's really sad, the lack of intensity that this shade has, and the green in this is just so hard to identify, even packed on the eyes. And everything else just plays that kind of dark and smoky game. Not saying it's the worst palette ever, and some of these textures, we haven't really talked a lot about that, but if you've tried like some of these True Naked palettes from CoverGirl, there are some really nice soft textures in there with shimmers, with mattes, some really good things going on. There can be a tendency for some shades to seem kind of flaky and be maybe a little resistant to being built up on the eyes, but you can get a good dark look with this, and you focus in on that black there, I mean, it's gonna go there for you. Look at how rich and intense that is. When we're talking palettes though, I mean, assuming the formula is decent, okay, I'll try it, but what will either reel me in or push me away seems to be the shade selection and whether colors actually deliver on what they appear to be in the palette. And here, I think everything just goes a little too dark. And if you got a green and you're putting on green, you probably want to see a little green, right? Next up, we've got Revolution, and this one I'm very into, and I think anybody who really likes warm shades will probably like this as well. I mean, look at what's going on in here. The rich, like, deep pinks, the peachy orangey shades, the variety of finishes. As you can see, these don't all follow like a half matte, half shimmer thing, like the Ascension one seemed to, kind of. Soot and Sparkle shade actually does show up a little bit as a blue, but everything else, I feel like CoverGirl had an easy time pulling off these pigmented warm tones, because in application, I feel like this is the most what you see is what you get palette. The shimmers are nice, you know, a gold, kind of a coppery rose gold, a brighter yellowy gold. This deep plummy shade down here, while it does have shimmer, it's plenty dark enough to provide contrast to everything else you're gonna use. I found it easy to work with. I just, again, enjoyed the tones very much, but I will say this, if you're like me and you're still kind of annoyed by this packaging, you might look into the True Naked Sunsets here. Let me open this up. This is one of the most beautiful palettes I think CoverGirl has done, period. And it's got a lot of those warm tones, like kind of the orangey, the deeper pinks. It even works in like a very dark rusty brown. You got a couple shimmers here. It's a nice matte and shimmer balance. It's very compact and easy. Like I said, I love that size. Here, yeah, you're getting that oddball kind of blue option, this taupe here, but overall, it's a very similar vibe that both of these palettes are creating. I think what you also maybe lack a little bit here are the really pronounced golds. That's another thing that this has. But if you're more into the rosy warm element to everything, I think you might dig this one just as well. Now the one we're gonna play with today is this one called Rain. And this is gonna actually be my first time playing with this, so I'll let you know how this fits into my little palette ranking. I think we're gonna try to play with some colors. Keep in mind I've got a little base going on, but it's not all that tacky, you know, that's pretty much set up right now. I think I'm gonna take some of this goldeny shade, this champagne gold called Crowned, with a flat brush, and we'll lay a little bit of that down kind of in this inner corner area. Now this is topping a pretty shimmery shadow stick, but that color's pretty soft and pigmented. I think it would deliver just on its own anyway. Then let's take a little bit of Next of Kin right next door. This looks very rose gold and a little bit deeper. And we'll let that kind of fade into the center of the lid. Very pretty. These palettes do have mirrors, which is nice. I don't love that they give you like different amounts of colors here. Like some are really skinny and almost like you gotta be a little strategic about your brush in certain shades. I'm sure they're just trying to set the palette apart looks-wise a little bit, but I don't know. I just like something with a little uniformity a little bit better. Now let's try this color called Forever Yours. Really eager to see how much this purpley shade stands out. It picked up well on the brush. And we're gonna pat this. Ooh, okay. Really kind of seeing it more than I thought I would. Patting that on the outer half of the lid and kind of letting it overlap my copper a little bit. To me, this palette kind of seems the most random in terms of shade selection, because we had the Ascension one, which was very light and natural. We had the really deep and smoky one, we had the warm one, and now this one, you know, is maybe your sort of pop of color. Like that purple really is standing out. So I think I'm gonna take my E25 brush now that I've pulled a little of that purple into the crease and just let that blend around a little bit. Let's grab a little more. Even in a softer application, I think that purple is really pretty, very vibrant, and really looking like a true purple, you know? Not like a magenta sort of fuchsia color. Purple and gold, I'm going back to my like high school cheering for the basketball team. They were purple and gold. My LSU fans. It always comes back to sports teams when I do bold color combos. Okay, letting some of this come in since I didn't really have a major crease situation here. Now I kind of want to pull the copper back in, but with my little wispy white E36, and kind of let that come out over the border, and I'll probably need to blend over it again since it's just not a super light shade. But I support drugstore brands trying to go out of the box a little bit, you know, with their color selections and giving us something a little brighter, a little bolder from time to time. I think it's cool to be able to run into that at a drugstore price. Okay, now as you can see, I'm softening the copper that I just put on with a bare brush. And we have a shade for a highlight here. Maybe come down, yeah, that might be too dark. We'll do Crowned again. Pretty goldeny. Now I think we'll take more of Forever Yours with a smudge brush and let that come around under the eye. Even in a packed on smudgy way, I'm seeing the purple. Sometimes when you confine your shadow to just such a small little surface area, things will just tend to look dark, like it doesn't let the color come through enough, but I can still see it. Now we've got to take some of this blue right here, right? Are we also wondering about this shade? High Life. Oh my, that's probably equally as intense as the purple was. And I just got a tiny bit on my brush and it's almost too much for my lower lash line to take. I need a few more lower lash lines around here. I need some volunteers. Yeah, I suspect that if I took the blue and did much of the same thing that I did with the purple, it would show up in the same way. It just seems that intense. So I'm just taking a bare pencil brush and sort of trying to move that around a little bit, slightly soften it up, but I'm looking pretty smoky. I think I might take my plum. You might remember this from originally being on the outer part of my lid. Take a little bit of this and put it in my lower inner rim. I haven't thought to try one of these in this manner yet, but we'll see how it goes. And kind of smudge it in there between the lashes. It's turning the blue a bit more navy looking, but that's okay. All right, guys, I'm gonna stop there with the shadow look. I think we can tell that this is a pretty intense palette. We didn't really go down to the dusty rose shade here, kind of a taupey rose, like those are some of your other options. Definitely some more muted options, and there's an olive right there. And the goldeny shades can be even more like yellowy gold with this color that we also didn't even touch. There's absolutely nothing matte in the Rain palette though. I just don't know that I like it as well, or I find everything like as fully flattering as I do in this all out warm palette called Revolution, but I can definitely appreciate that color variety and the way that that purple can execute. Like they're almost right up at the top together, those two. But still, for a snippet of some of the things that are happening in all palettes, this is smaller, it's more convenient, and you can still get beautiful looks with it. Now we're going to talk about some of these exhibitionist liquid glitter shadows. So this seems to be CoverGirl's take on kind of the type of thing Stila's doing, right? All different sort of metallic sparkly things. Yesterday, which one was I wearing? I think I was wearing 2, and 2 is very like light taupey looking, but comes across on the lid with a full-on silver glitter. Here's the problem. I don't think these adhere to the eye and wear as long as the Stila ones do. Now they will dry down, like you'll put them on, they'll feel liquidy, you'll dab them in or whatever you need to do, and then you'll feel like, okay, they've set. You're gonna have a pretty eye look in the short term, but at the end of an entire day, if you're putting one of these on at the start of the day, at the end of the day, guys, I had glitter all over my face, like everywhere. There was still a good amount on the eyes, like there's enough concentration of glitter in here. It was hanging on, but so much was falling down, and I don't think I've ever had that experience with one of the Stila glitters. But again, that's one of the ones that has like the most sparkle. I feel like this number 2 is the most just like full-on glittery. Some of these others strike me a bit more as glitter infused in cream, and we've got dark shades that kind of echo the dark shadow stick colors with the charcoal and the plum. But from an eye topper or look topping perspective, I think I want to go to this shade number 5 here. This is our gold, and it's just going to come out with a doe foot applicator. And this is the way I would most likely use these, is get a little bit of product on the lid. And see here, with this not looking as full on glittery and more like a metallic liquid shadow with some glitter infused, this is going to wear a little bit better than the other. But it's a pretty and very bold effect. And I'm not saying you would have to use these as toppers. You could use these on their own. But can you tell that there's still a good amount of glitter? The other one that I had already worn was number 4. And it also, you know, it's got the glitter, but it's just not as full on. It's more of like a metallic rose gold shadow with a goldeny glitter that's also in there. Where is it? Right here. And when I wore that the other day, like it didn't have this pronounced fallout. Maybe a little glitter fleck, but not quite to the extent of the other shade I described, shade number 2 from yesterday. I can take a little bit of one of these darker shades if you just want to see it. Just a little bit of that dark plum. Just tap it out there, and that's still got glitter in it too, but it might show a little less just because it's being sort of enveloped in this really deep plummy shimmer. Purple and gold. Dang, you are covered, purple and gold lovers. Again, we applied 5 for the gold on the inner part of the lid. I would say that's a metallic cream with glitter infused. So is this number 6. You can see is a more yellowy, almost hint of spring green kind of unique color there. Both of your deepest shades are creams with the glitter infused. This number 4, the rose gold, a cream with glitter infused. Shades number 1, 2, and 3 are the most full on, like gonna see a lot of glitter just immediately on your eyes, really similar to some of those Stila ones that I've used. The 1 has a little bit more of a taupe base, the 2 has more of a rosy base, and the 3 is just silver. And don't get me wrong, they look gorgeous and they apply very full on the eyes. But I think these are some of the ones that have the highest glitter content, and I think they're the ones you need to be most wary of staying power wise as far as glitter ending up sort of all over your face over the course of a day. Now, if you're planning to wear this over the course of just a few hours, they might all be adequate, but all day wear, I don't feel like they're completely cut out for that. I'm gonna pop on some mascara and then we'll wrap this whole thing up. Okay, gang, here we go. We got some mascara on. This is my Pat McGrath Sheer Color Balm. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Sheer Color Balm Lip Fetish in Love Supreme. Super comfortable, kind of light pinky tone on the lips. But I would say the takeaway here, the thing that I'm overall most impressed with from this big release of CoverGirl eye products would be these shadow sticks, actually. I think they did a great job with variety of finishes and range of light to dark. I feel like you've got these several mattes in very basic shades that could be so easy to create a basic look. I could see me putting the deeper, like the medium brownish color in my crease and one of the lighter ones all over the lid. But as far as neutralizing bases or priming steps, I think those are great. A couple of dark smoky shades that are great for smudgy liner, several mid-tone shimmers that are kind of your standalone shade all over the lid perhaps, and the staying power with these is just incredibly impressive. The glide across the skin is so easy. Blend them out with your finger, blend them out with a synthetic brush. I just thought those are really, really nice to see. I think these glitters are cool too. Like, I like what they're trying to do here, and I think they're giving people a really interesting direction that you can go with your eye look at a drugstore price point. Those Stila glitters are well known and much loved for being a glitter that is controllable. You know, you're able to get a beautiful opaque glitter effect on your eyes without having to deal with loose glitter. And those shades have really performed well for me, worn well. Here, I really do see that there may still be some work to do with some of their most concentrated glitter shades, because by day's end, do you really want that all over your face? No, you want it where you put it on your eyes. But if all day longevity is a concern for you, maybe don't reach for shades 1, 2, or 3 and go for one of the medium or deeper shades that's more of like a cream metallic shadow with some glitter infused, which is what I worked into today's look. And you can still see pretty glittery, but not quite as concentrated a glitter as those first 3 shades will give you. But I say good effort because I think that's a fun option to have at a drugstore price point, because it may be for a lot of people the kind of product that you're only using occasionally and you don't want to drop 20 bucks or close to 20 bucks for one shade. Now, the eyeshadow palettes here, I kind of stand by my feelings on the packaging being overboard and too much, and I think there's another way they could have probably gone about that. However, getting to try the other options that are out there outside of the Ascension palette, it did open my eyes to some better color combinations and some really good quality things happening in terms of the shadows. While the Ascension did not wow me so much, and Overthrown, I thought some of the deep colors that are in this just get lost in the look and don't really show up. I was pretty impressed by Revolution and Rain, which was the one we used for today's look. But in terms of practicality and just size, I see me gravitating more toward this size of shadow palette, and I love what's already in the Sunsets palette. If you already own that, you know these are your colors. You don't need to probably buy Revolution unless you're so enamored by all the golds that are also in there. But this shade I thought was a nice kind of sampling of different elements of all the palettes and the same kind of nice quality, just again pretty low on mattes. So I would love to hear, what do you guys think? What have you tried of this new stuff? What do you think about it? Are you a cream shadow lover? Do you like the convenience of a shadow stick, or does that kind of get lost and you're more going to powder shadows? If you've tried any of these, which was your favorite? Let me know your feedback in the comments section. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you guys again very soon. Bye.